Hey YouTubers, today's video is about day hiking and you fall in the water. What do? You need a fire to dry out. You don't have any gear with you other than a pocket knife and a lighter. Hey YouTubers, Gentru here. Welcome back. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. So one thing I wanted to go over with really quick is what to look for when it's wet, cold, snowy, where to find really quick tinder to start a fire. So that would be this stuff right here. Find your pine, your spruce. It's all this nice dead stuff. It doesn't even hurt the tree. Obviously just, harvest it with respect for the tree, but you grab all that stuff underneath and a little bit of pitch and some birch bark and you'll have yourself a fire quickly, as long as you can harvest some stand like deadwood to sustain that flame. Which, see right there, that stand right there, that one that got broken off at the top, that's probably good and dry. Peel that bark off. There's another one right there. Those would burn nicely. Usually you can push them over. Start a fire quickly in the woods using these source materials, and you know how to do that quickly. Like if you fall into a pond or something like that, or you fall into a stream, like a water crossing, or you sweat and you get your clothes wet that way. However it may be, you need to know how to start a fire. And most people don't carry matches and a ferro rod and all that stuff. So I just wanted to have a really quick, fast video on nothing fancy, no hand drills or nothing like that, no ferro rod. Just gathering natural materials and making a fire with a lighter. Just a good old BIC. So yeah, stay tuned for that. All right, I'll be back. So what you want to look for when you're looking for larger firewood that you can use right away, that will be accessible to you without a hatchet or saw or an axe or even a knife for that matter. If all you have is your lighter and say your pocket knife, like I always, no matter what, always have my old timer 2-blade and a BIC lighter, no matter what, all the time. Even if I'm like just outside the door at my house, I always have that with me. So if that's the least amount of gear that I have, I'm okay. I still can make a fire. So if that's all you have with you, and let's say you look out into this landscape and you look, oh my goodness, what would help me if that was the case? If I fell into that water, what natural resources, would help me? And so right off the bat, you want to be able to identify those resources, and you want to be able to gather what you need in a pretty timely fashion. I mean, hypothermia is going to set in 10-15 minutes, so you want to be able to probably start a fire, I would say, in less than 10 minutes. And when you don't have any tools and you're just gathering natural resources, it's not as easy as one would think. So I just suggest that you get outside and you practice identifying the natural resources in your area or wherever it is that you're hiking or spending time, and get to know those resources and be able to identify them. Now in New England, white pine, which you can see in the back, is a conifer. It has 5 needles. That's the white pine. You can also use it as a tea and things like that. We can talk about that another time in another video. But as far as fire making, that's a really great go-to here in New England. So Mass, New Hampshire, Maine, any of the, if you're in any of the mountains up in that area, I suggest, white pine, spruce, cedar even, all great. Also, my favorite is the birch, or the white, paper birch, or any birch for that matter, but the white paper birch specifically is excellent for fire making, fire starting. If you have a lighter and you have a piece of birch bark, as long as you can source some white pine with that nice, tinder up underneath, the dead tinder to gather, your success of a fire is pretty much golden. It's almost 100% if you know what you're doing and you've practiced. There's a white paper birch in the back over by that tall white pine stand. This is a very young white pine stand right here in front of us. But in the distance, there's a very mature white pine stand, and in the middle of that, there's about 5 white paper birch. So that would be an excellent, place to start the fire. But unfortunately, we fell in here, and we want to make fire here because we only have, like, say, 10 minutes is our clock to start. So what you want to do is you want to be able to look out on the landscape, identify those natural resources quickly, gather them, and get your fire going. So what I suggest you do is you go out, gather that tinder material from underneath the white pine. While you're gathering it, look for some white pine sap as a fire extender, just to help you. Maybe it's a windy day. That extender is going to help you keep that flame until you can get a good coal bed going. Then on your way back, because your backpack's here, everything's soaked or nothing, you have nothing, so, or whatever it is. But you tamp out a nice spot, get a couple good logs, like I said, and look for that dead standing wood. That's your best bet. The stuff where the bark is falling off. So that is a great indication that it's not yet rotted, but it's dry enough to burn. So you want to look for that. But yeah, I just suggest you practice. Practice makes perfect. It's really not about the gear, in my opinion. Brand name gear isn't always where it's at. I mean, you always want to have a good quality piece of gear. But to me, it's really about the individual and that individual's skill set. And practicing that skill set and being a master at your skills will really do you well out in the wilderness, because there's not a convenience store or a department store out here, so knowing how to use one piece of gear over another isn't really always going to help you. So I always suggest, I know time is limited, it is for me, so I prefer to practice my skills, to get outside so that I can just get that off the grid part of my life. I really enjoy being in nature. She's one of my best friends. Mother Nature. She, it just feels like home out here. And so I love to be out here and to practice my skills. And I often, think of that when I'm hiking too, like identify the resources as I hike, because you just never know, and it gives you something to think about, I guess. That's constructive, and it's practicing the skill, I guess, while you're hiking. But I don't know, just some things. It's what I do, and I like to share, and so please share with me in the comment section below and let me know what you think. All right, thanks guys. We fell in. This is what we're gonna do. All right, here we go. So all I have is my BIC lighter. I really don't. I got my bag, but we're gonna pretend, because not everybody is always prepared or experienced, and I learned by experience. So I got my BIC lighter, and we're gonna get warm by using this. So first off, we already sourced the small stuff, the tinder. We don't have a lot of time because we're cold. Remember, we're soaked. We're freezing and we're soaked. So we don't have a lot of time. So we're gonna press this down, make a nice base. Okay. Now you're gonna lose a lot of motor skill if you're freezing. You're not gonna have the functionality that you normally would, like if you had gloves on. So we'll take the gloves off, and maybe we'll put our hands in some snow here, get them cold on purpose, because your dexterity, you know, really starts to go as your hands get cold. So if you do get cold and you fall in, you're gonna be cold. So I see right off in the distance some wood I can use. I'm gonna go get that. Now remember, I fell in, so I'm freezing, and I'm having a hard time staying warm right now, okay? So it's harder when you're cold to do functions like this. So the more you practice, the better you will be when you need this. Hopefully you won't. So we got some good wood right here, ready to go. Okay? Remember, you don't have a lot of time in these situations to get warm. So you want to try to act as quickly as possible. Remember, just using a BIC lighter. I don't know if you can see this. Okay? Just using a BIC lighter here. We need to try to get ourselves warm. I'll just throw a lighter in. It'll be perfect. Because everybody thinks that with a lighter you have this sense of, you know, confidence. Because you feel like it's instant fire, right? Like it's instant. But we're gonna, you know, you don't have a lot of time when you fall in. You start to get really cold, you lose a lot of motor function, and you want to be able to grab what you need and make that fire really, really quickly and get yourself warm. That's the name of the game right there. So knowing what to get, what materials to grab is key, okay? It's key. So there you go. We got a fire going now, and I'll be able to warm myself up, make a nice cup of tea, coffee, whatever. Warm up my body, warm up my clothes, dry my clothes, whatever you need to do. You know, you'll be able to do that. You need to melt some snow. You know, you can melt snow. So it's just, it's an awesome skill to know, to be able to make your own fire quickly with just a lighter, to save yourself really, or a loved one, you know, hiking together. It's fantastic. So now I'm gonna have a cup of coffee. Carry this little piece of Tyvek with me. Give myself the meal on. And you can, if you got your bag with you, you can make a cup of coffee. But otherwise, the exercise of this video was to just be able to, you know, make fire quickly. And I suggest you get to know the natural materials in your area or the areas that you spend the time outside in. Find, you know, those materials. I know here in New England, white pine, spruce, there's so many, birch, white birch, birch bark is money. It, you know, wet, it will light. But, you know, knowing, you know, your fire extenders versus, you know, what will take a spark. Because what if your lighter was just, all you had was a lighter but there was no juice? Like you couldn't get the flame, like all you had was the spark. You still can make a fire with that, it's just a lot more challenging. It's probably pretty much like now you're, it's like, my ferro rod throws a better spark than this, so that would be, you know, true survival. But, you know, knowing how to make a fire with just a lighter is a skill. And it's not as easy as you think if all you have is that lighter and you don't have gasoline or any, you know, materials that you can buy at the store. If you're just sourcing materials in the woods, it's not as easy as you think. So I invite you to get out and try it, you know, for yourself, because, you know, practice makes perfect, and the more you practice, the better you'll be if you ever need it. I mean, you know, you're out with some friends and you're hiking, you know, a couple miles out in the middle of the woods, and you fall in, and now, you know, you're talking a hypothermic situation, and, you know, depending on the temperature, you're not going to last 10-15 minutes, you know, in some temperatures. So it's just, you know, in the winter. So it's a good skill to know, and it's also good to know so that, you know, you can melt snow for water and things like that. Get yourself warm, dry out your clothes, cook, boil water, all that. So I invite you guys, get outside, practice, 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 and you know, drop in the comments what you did. Let me know, and I hope to see some comments. It feeds me when I get the comments on the channel. And you know, if there's anything you want to see, you know, please let me know. I'm always looking for ideas, other than just the stuff I got going on around the homestead. I truly enjoy being outside and practicing my survival and bushcraft skills. I grew up spending my time outside, so I hope you have a great day. Get outside, practice, practice, practice. If you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. And hit that notification bell up the top so you get all my newest videos. Thanks again for hanging out with me today. Have a great rest of your day and get outside. Bye now.